About bodybuilding training, power building, all that good shit. What's the point? When's the reason to use it? All that good stuff. So, bodybuilding training, you know, just training for the size of growing the muscle, right? There's no specifics, there's no specific movement pattern, there's no specific neurological adaptation, there's nothing, and what that means is there's no motor pattern or thing we're trying to simulate as a technique to practice and get better at for a competition, right? Bodybuilding training is the only sport that doesn't really have specifics in the weight training. Now the specifics come from the posing, right? But there's not really any reason to do any sort of training that's specific to bodybuilding. It's just to grow the muscle. So with that being said, in sports training, there isn't really much of a point to grow the muscle unless you are underdeveloped or trying to fill out a weight class, which would fall under underdeveloped, and American football players, powerlifters, and strongmen. And even the two strength sports, powerlifting and strongman, again, only if you're trying to fill out a weight class. As soon as you are adding muscle past the point of your optimal development and your weight class, you're just going to slow yourself down. That added muscle isn't going to do anything extra except add more size. It might add a little bit of strength as a byproduct of getting bigger, but the size to strength ratio going up at the same time isn't helping you. You want the size to stay the same and the strength and the power output and the speed to go up. As strength athletes, it can become a little muddy about how to train because, if you look at a ball sport or any other collegiate Olympic sport, besides weightlifting, they're using something else for their sport, and then they're using weights to condition and to train in the off season and stuff like that. But they are spending the majority of their time practicing their actual sport. Now, we as strength athletes are spending all of our time in the weight room, and we need to distinguish between practicing our sport and training with weights. Now, it's all training with weights, but we really have to separate the specifics from the accessories and the weight training, because it can be very easy to cross the two and muddy the two, and then all of a sudden we're not getting the desired stimulus out of the two. We're trying to get muscle growth out of this one, and we're trying to get conditioning out of this one, or whatever, and it's just not optimal. So, as a coach or an athlete, when you're designing a program or when you're stepping into the weight room, you need to think, okay, I'm a strongman, and right now I'm deadlifting, or I'm log pressing. So this is going to be something that I'm going to see in the contest. It's something I have to get better at and more proficient at, and I have to practice the technique of. Now, a dumbbell shoulder press is going to be a good accessory, but you don't need the neurological adaptation from that. You need the neurological adaptation from the log press, right? So there's two completely different stimuluses. You don't need to grow your muscles with the log press. You need to grow your muscles with the dumbbell press. You can see how they're two completely different tools, both used to train and condition the shoulders, but now we can see why one would be much better off used for practicing your sport, and one is much better off used for developing size, So, same thing with the squat. The squat is a big one where people get pretty messy on in both powerlifting and strongman, where And strongman, let's start with that one. You're never really going to squat in contest. You might rarely, but you're going to know ahead of time. So anytime where deadlift is your main lower body specific, sport specific movement, your squat is just an accessory. You should be squatting very deep, and you shouldn't be too concerned about the style of squat. You can front squat, Zerger squat, high bar squat, hack squat, anything that allows you to get deep in that full stimulus, because we're not going for the squat here. We're going for the upright torso and the exposure on the quads and the load on the posture. We don't care about any neurological adaptations or any motor patterns in the squat specifically. We care about the ones that are going to be in contest, which are going to be the deadlift and your carries and your pressing and your loading. You're not squatting. So your squats, you don't need to treat as the sport-specific, highly neurological, technical thing. You just need to squat very deep to develop your quads, to increase the tolerance of your posture, and to stay healthy, right? Your deadlift, you need to practice specifically. You need to practice the height and the setup that will be at the contest. You develop your body with squats, right? You can see the difference between the two, but they're both full body, lower body movements, right? The same goes for the other thing. If we were having a squat in contest, we would practice much more specifically. We'd cut it off at the point where we would get the white lights, right? Get the up command or whatever it's going to be. We would train to the bare minimum so we could handle the most amount of weight, and then we would use another squat variation or a leg press or a deadlift variation or something to full exposure to complement that. We never do both of them for both. That's it for today. Hope you learned something. Let me know if you have any questions.